The San Francisco 49ers look like maybe the best team in the NFL. Some ex-49ers got something to say about that on the other side of the country. And, of course, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch extended again by the San Francisco 49ers, the architects of that best team in the NFL. All that and more. Week 3 review coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Appreciate all of the everydayers out there jumping in the live chat with us and hanging out. And anybody that's maybe just driving to work on Monday morning, hanging out, listen to Locked On 49ers. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is the fast and easy way to get qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, I want to get into some of the things we've seen here from week 3 so far, Croc, and we still have some primetime games to go here, but most of the Sunday action in the books, of course. Niners on a mini bye, getting some rest here as they played on Thursday Night Football, improving to 3-0 on the 2023 season and getting rewarded for it, Croc. Well, it looks like maybe the best team in the NFL right now through 3 weeks, and we're going to talk about some ex-49ers that are putting up big points over there in Miami in a second that might have some say about this. It's not the Cowboys that's the best team in the NFL. I think we saw that. So more on the rest of week 3, Croc. But Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, for the second time, getting re-upped by the York family. And so new extensions, we don't know all the details yet. The 49ers just announced that they're multi-year contract extensions for both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And I don't know if you draw it up the way they built this team, but they built this team and the 49ers look darn good right now, especially compared to all the other chaos going on in the NFL after watching week 3, Croc.
Was that like re-signing Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch? Was that something that we were supposed to expect to see? Because it wasn't even a thought in my mind when I saw this. Were their contracts about to run out or something?
No, they had already signed like 6-year contracts, right? I think maybe Shanahan's was longer than Lynch's or something like that, but they were both signed into the future already. So maybe this is maybe there's a lot of ways to look into it. One is just that, look, there was weird stuff this offseason, but guess what? You guys figured it out. It's a good team. Keep going. And here's more money. And maybe you're closer to the top of the league in both your salaries now than, and, I think they already were kind of close, but who knows what other, Peyton's inside since then, right? So there's probably some other dollar amounts that were worked out behind the scenes. So no doubt Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are being paid, along their pay went up, I'm sure, along with everything else, right? Maybe they wanted to lock them both in again with the same length of contract. Maybe this is John Lynch as well saying, look, I'm not going to do TV. I'm here to win Super Bowls, plural. I'm going to be here for a while. I'm not going to walk away and let Adam Peters take over, right? I am the general manager of this football team. Kyle Shanahan is the head coach. We are in lockstep. And we'll be here for a while, and we're going to try to win a lot of games. I think that's maybe the big statement by everybody in the organization with this.
Yeah, so it's just we're one, and we're just going to continue to build this thing, and hopefully we win in the process. But if we don't, I'm fine because we keep winning games. We keep having winning seasons. So Jay York, he's lining his pockets just fine, right? Like the money's rolling in. A nice little stability you have going with the 49ers with John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan. He's like, you know what? Even if they don't win the big one, which again, we don't hang banners around here, right? Like, so you want to win the big one, but even if we don't, this is a good team that we have. And I say team, I mean John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, that's going to continue to make a lot of money for York.
No doubt. I do want to talk a little bit about sort of what the overall conversation has been about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and where they're at. versus some expectations for fans, like the accountability thing that was thrown out there during the offseason because of all the Trey Lance stuff. And we've talked about it, of course, a ton, Croc. And one thing I've seen a lot is people saying something to the fact of, and look, all you got, not necessarily towards us, but just toward generally some fans and some media. And you guys said that the 49ers don't know how to draft. Look at this roster, right? And then they list all the picks. I think all along, like Croc, you and I have never even thought that their seats were hot remotely or that the 49ers were bad at drafting. I think the thing we've always talked about is the unorthodox nature of where they got to where they are. Teams don't get to, hey, we're the favorite to win the Super Bowl after just trading up for a top 3 quarterback and he completely busts out and you trade him for a 4th rounder inside of 3 years. That's never happened to my knowledge in the history of the game and may never happen again, right? The crazy, how much better they are at hitting on not only good players, not only contributors, not only starters, but star players between the rounds 5 and 7. That's not how teams are built. The 49ers did this thing so unorthodox, it's wild. So saying that they don't know how to draft was never it. It was they draft super weird, but have ended up with a great roster, right? Kyle Shanahan is an amazing coach, and you would never even think about firing him because just about every other team in the league, save maybe 3, 4, 5, would hire him instantly, right? But he's also done some weird things as well and might not be perfect and might have some management, some things he can get better at from a management standpoint with, some of the choices they've made early in the draft, the trading up for Lance stuff, how they ended up where they are with quarterback, which you can't say it's luck because they identified the guy and they drafted him, but they drafted him dead last. He wasn't the plan. It just happened, but they're able to coach an offense that can allow something like that to happen as well. If Tom Brady goes to a team other than the Patriots, does he end up being Tom Brady? I don't know. Does Brock Purdy end up being Brock Purdy if he goes to another team? I think it's pretty doubtful depending on which team he goes to. So,
and depending on who you ask, I think.
Right.
There are a lot of people that were I knew enough people. Again, I didn't know who Brock Purdy was. I didn't watch Brock Purdy. I know my bro, Donald, he's right here. I know he watched Brock Purdy in college and said he was rooting for him. And he said there were some weird things he would do sometimes in weird moments, but it really sounded a lot like Tony Romo. So maybe the 49ers said, okay, we at the very least like some things about his skill set. We don't think too much of it, but it's worth just having him on his roster. And maybe he can be another Nick Mullins. And then it turned out, hey, he's actually a lot more than Nick Mullins. And I think a lot of it comes from a movement standpoint. I don't know if that's like the biggest difference between the guys, like where Brock makes some plays that maybe Mullins would have had to try to make from the pocket, and that got him in trouble. It doesn't get Purdy in trouble as much. But overall, just kind of how they went about that, I agree. I don't want to say it's luck because they've done it over and over and over with guys that they've identified as 49ers in mid-rounds. But it is, like you said, unorthodox, really just the way they've gone about all of it. I mean, think about their linebackers. It's like these are all guys that played safety in college. And then it's like, no, you're going to come here and you're actually going to play linebacker. And you know what, Fred Warner, even though you were like this star position player at BYU, because I remember I watched him prior, and I was looking at linebackers. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of like this slot, like nickel. And, they're like, no, we're going to put you at the mic. And we're going to put the green dot on your helmet, not on Reuben Foster's helmet. We're going to put on yours. All right. So just the way that they've gone about being able to identify guys, fit them in certain spots, they've done a good job. And it hasn't always worked, right? Like think of Tarvarius Moore. He was a guy who was always a safety, whether it was junior college or whether it was I believe it was Southern Miss that he went to. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, we're going to draft you and we're going to put you at corner. Well, that didn't work out. But they've done that enough to where it has worked out to where their process continues to be good for what they are. And I think York looks at that, sees that, and he says, you know what? However you go about your philosophy, other teams might not try to mimic it, or maybe they can try, but they won't be able to. But you guys do a damn good job at it. And I want that to be here for the long haul.
More on Lynch and Shanahan, and I think the one or a couple of things that have really stuck out to me that of the things that have really worked for the 49ers in that marriage of GM and head coach and front office and coaching staff going forward. Real quick, Gold-Blooded says, York using Uncle Eddie's blueprint. Uncle Eddie, I think, was even quicker to axe people and fire people. So I'm not sure about that. We'll see what it ends up looking like here in the end. And obviously a lot of rings came with Uncle Eddie too.
Well, actually, I mean, he has been quick to ask people. And I saw someone in the chat earlier, probably a few comments up, but he talked about how, York learned from his lessons and it's like, I'm not going to, miss on another hire. But it's like, well, he actually did hit on Harbaugh. And I think because of the way it ended, people kind of say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. But it's like, well, he was the guy that went out. He hired Harbaugh, got him away from college football and Stanford. Like, that was a big hire at the time. And because of the hire that York did, you went to 3 straight NFC championship games. It just kind of ended very weird. Yeah, I think he learned from that. And I think he had a quick axe.
He learned from the kind of personality he could deal with, and Harbaugh turned out not to be that, even though he's a great coach. So
right.
That kind of flipped on him, which is really interesting.
I think Shanahan, kind of just looking at it right now, kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You see he is a guy that you would like to hang out with, and you've seen York and those guys hang out, which you probably never saw Jim, or you probably never saw Jay York and Shanahan hanging out at each other's houses and drinking and having beers. Like,
Harbaugh didn't hang out and share a glass of wine with the Yorks, I don't think, very often.
But Shanahan does have that other side where it's like, I'm here to win football games and I'm going to do it my way, and can kind of be an a-hole about it a little bit, just the way he kind of goes about it. So I think Shanahan and maybe York identified this. Hey, it kind of gives me the best of both worlds. I feel comfortable around him.
All right, more on Kyle Shanahan, more on John Lynch, why they got extended, what they're doing really well right now to put this team in a position to go win a Super Bowl. A lot of talk about those Dallas Cowboys in the chat, Croc. So we're gonna have to go there as well. Getting upset by the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe the NFC West isn't as bad as we thought at the bottom of the division. And I think I do know what team is the worst in the NFL now, and maybe it's not the Arizona Cardinals. And some Ex-49ers putting up 70 points in Miami. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager. For your small business, you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you do is you add your job to the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. It spreads the word that you're hiring. And why would you not spread the word at LinkedIn? Everyone's on LinkedIn already, right? I'm on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. Your job seekers will be on LinkedIn. Then you utilize simple tools like screening questions to make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I want to go to this comment really quick from Jan. York using the Rooney family's blueprint, maybe more than the Eddie, than his Uncle Eddie's blueprint. I think the Rooneys are so unique in how stable they are. The Pittsburgh Steelers organization. My co-host for the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, Matt Williamson. By the way, check it out. Subscribe. We talk about the entire league daily there with Williamson, a former NFL scout. Used to write for ESPN. Does a lot of work in the Pittsburgh area now. And he's 50. He just turned 50 recently. Williamson did. There's been 3 head coaches for the Steelers in his lifetime. We're talking going all the way back to 1969. They've had 3 different head coaches. It was Chuck Noll, and then it was with the chin, blanking on his name right now.
Bill Cowher.
Bill Cowher, and then it was Mike. I'm blanking on his name too. What's wrong with me right now?
Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin, thank you. That's it.
Don't worry. Hey, I get like that too. We watch so much football and we have taken so much information. The names start getting weird. You can see the face in your head, but the names, I start to have Scrabble brain as well. So
I think that's why scouts always they're always saying, the kid from Southern Miss, the kid from Northwestern, 15. They just use the numbers because I there's too many names in my head. I can't. Every time I learn about a new draft class, it just like memories from my childhood disappear because I'm putting new prospect names, 300 new names in my head that I'm trying to remember every April. But the Roonies
They say you only use like 10% of your brain. You only use like 10% of your brain, and we're trying to stretch that 10% out. And they're like, no, we're on overload right now with all these names. So you have to forget some names so you can bring some new ones in.
Yeah, like no, 10% is the maximum. Like you're normally at 8%. We'll go to 10 sometimes for you, but that's it. But the Roonies are the most stable, the Steelers are the most stable organization. It'd be nice if the 49ers were starting something like that. But what's crazy, Croc? You think about Uncle Eddie and the Bill Walsh 49ers. Bill Walsh only coached the 49ers for 10 years. Shanahan and Lynch are in year 7 now. Imagine if Shanahan in 3 years, in 3 more years, just said, I'm good, and walked away. Right?
Well, right. That would be strange. Is he handing it off to George Seifert? Because that was kind of a good exchange there for the Niners.
That worked out well for the 49ers, and they did get one more ring with Seifert.
Who would be there? Who would be their Seifert?
Well, it would have been Mike McDaniel. But I guess no, because he would be turning it over. It would have been more like D'Amico Ryans, I guess. But I don't think they have that guy now. They've been poached so hard, they don't have that guy anymore.
Yeah.
Could be Steve.
I think Steve. No, I just it doesn't. Well, you never know how the players react to him, but it would have been nice right now, especially if you're watching the Miami Dolphins. It probably would have been nice if it was Mike McDaniel.
Man, there's so many bad coaching staffs and bad teams around the league too. I think that's a huge part of it. Like the Yorks get along with Shanahan and Lynch. They respect each other. They all work great together. And you look at some of these bad teams and bad organizations, there's so much turnover. It's like, why would you even entertain the idea of, it's like, no, please, let's keep going with this. This was a great team. We're working together. And I think it's the best thing that they've done, Croc. I think the number one thing Shanahan and Lynch have done is work together. Shanahan wants a guy, Lynch goes and gets him, right? And the fact that they're willing to sign another extension together shows that. I think it's how well they work together has been the most important part of it. They've gotten some things wrong. They've gotten a lot right. It's been a little unorthodox. You wouldn't draw it up this way, but they've gotten here, and they're competitive guys. And when the best left tackle is available for trade, they're calling on him. When the best running back in the league is available for trade, they're calling on him. They're competitive. They're trying to be a great football team. They're not just trying to say, we're just going to do it this one way and that's it. So I think it's a collaborative effort, and it's been really important for the 49ers.
I think my biggest pushback on that, and again, I'm more of a risk taker. If you see me this week on Underdog Fantasy, I'm killing it right now. I'm on a heater over the last couple of weeks. I mean, I'm bringing in a couple $1,000s or whatever. But anyways, I'm a risk taker. All right, I'm a gamble a little bit. And I just feel like I'm not about playing it safe. So, yes, the 49ers have a great thing right now with Shanahan. And as long as it's great, cool. But the way that they've kind of put themselves in this situation where you I don't want to say stuck with them because, again, right now it looks to be like something really good. But there's a portion of the fan base that thinks, well, if not Kyle Shanahan, then who? And if you let go of Kyle Shanahan right now, 10 teams will be lined up to sign him. And it's like, well, yeah, but we haven't wanted the championship with him. Like, if I'm Jay York, like, I still want that. Like, I want you to strive for that. And I'm pretty sure Kyle does. If you look at how much he's aged since signing, I was telling my wife, I'm like, this guy has aged like the president since they brought him in. But so clearly he is really trying. And we see him do that. And I think some of his moves show like he's really trying. But at what point is really trying not enough? Now again, we're not there right now. I think there would have to be like a losing season in there. You haven't seen that, as of late. And I don't even see that coming. They clearly are doing a really good job. You talked about some bad coaching around the league. I don't want to be whatever the hell is going on with the Broncos. And the Minnesota Vikings, they're 0-3. Like, I do not want to be that. But no. I do think there's a lot of people that think, you can't do any better than Kyle. And it's like, well, it reminds me of a boyfriend, girlfriend, and like maybe the boyfriend is toxic and the girlfriend is like, well, look, he has a good job, and I just have to worry about this with him, even though like that one thing might be kind of big and make him not a good person, and you feel like you just can't do better. There's other coaches out. Like, what about the guy from Detroit Lions? Johnson, is that his name? He's the offensive coordinator right now. Like, he's cooking. There are guys around the league that are good coaches, but then the 49ers do have a good situation right now. I wish that York would just make them like, I don't want to say earn it because I feel like they have earned it, but he keeps re-upping them before them really like crossing the finish line at least once.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because they're already under contract, unless there was like some big negotiations where like we want to be paid more kind of thing, or Lynch is like, I might be out of here if I don't get paid more because I can make a whole lot more money doing this other thing. Or, because it's like win the Super Bowl, then it's like, okay, here's that big extension too, right? I'm with you. And like maybe we're different because we grew up seeing the 49ers win Super Bowls, and that's the expectation here. Having a Super Bowl competitive roster is one thing, and the 49ers have been there, but winning it is something else entirely. And that's sort of where we were at, Croc, with the whole Trey Lance thing. Is like, man, if lighting 3 first-round picks on fire ends up being the thing that keeps you from being able to go win the Super Bowl, because we were already operating from a place where it's like, this is a Super Bowl caliber team, this is a playoff team, this is a really good team. So when we're talking about like the Trey Lance stuff, it's like that was the worst move ever. That doesn't mean, oh, but the team sucks, you should fire everybody. It's like, is this you're not perfect, right? Is this move enough to keep you from winning that Super Bowl? Because in the end, that's what you're still trying to do. Dr. Steve Brule in the chat, by the way, makes a great point. Shanny's ability to get coaching talent is elite too. And I absolutely agree there. I think that's one of his best skills, is not only the way he coaches, but finding other coaches as well. And we're seeing his coaches around the league out coaching a lot of dudes that are really famous names.
And not just out coaching a lot of dudes, but his coaches, they were good for him.
Yep.
And then go to other places and are great. We've seen, man, whose staff keeps getting Bill Belichick is like, yes, they work for him, but then they go to other places and it's like, man, go back to New England. You stink.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
You're not seeing that. You're not seeing that. It's like, oh, yeah, you coached with Kyle. Okay, I'm going to hire you in Green Bay. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, man, went to an NFC championship game. We're winning playoff games. Like, we're good. When a come from behind game today with Jordan Love at quarterback, you're starting to kind of get him going a little bit. Great coach. Oh, you go and coach with Zach Taylor. He's kind of from that tree, right? You go and coach in Cincinnati. Looks bad at first. Oh, you get your quarterback. Oh, man, all of a sudden, back-to-back in the AFC championship appearances, go to a Super Bowl, right? And now the newest one, McDaniel, and you see what he's doing, and it's like, oh, go score 70 points. Like, oh, I mean, this is not the Belichick coaching tree. This is like guys that are operating on a very high level.
Very different level. Absolutely. Next, Croc, let's talk about one of those coaches, Mike McDaniel, just thumping the Broncos. 70 points they put on him, Croc. 7-0, and a couple of W's in the NFC West Sunday with the Rams yet to play as well. Coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by DoorDash. Did you burn your last piece of toast? Did your avocados go bad? Shame on you, first of all. If your avocados go bad, you got to eat those things up while they're still prime. Big avocado guy over here. My wife would lose her mind if we didn't have avocados. So you know what we do? We call DoorDash to make sure we get some delivered right to our door. Is your hot sauce bottle empty? Try grocery delivery from DoorDash. You'll get everything you want delivered when you need it right to your door. If you need fresh groceries for the whole week, or you just need that one emergency item from DoorDash, you can get that too. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. You'll get exactly what you ordered, or we'll make it right. So sit back and enjoy quality groceries just like you picked them out for yourself. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order, up to $20 value when you use code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout. It's a limited time offer. Terms apply, but when you use our promo code, that's 50% off, up to $20, no min subtotal, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKEDONNFL. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. So, Croc, if we're looking at the Shanahan sort of McVay-ish tree, I think Shanahan and McVay are top 5 coaches in the NFL right now. Andy Reid is up there. I would put McDaniel up there right now, especially if you're talking about offensive coaches. Matt LaFleur, he's done amazing work now with multiple quarterbacks, not just Aaron Rodgers, right? Because that's one of the big things. You see Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur split up. Okay, LaFleur's still good. Rodgers, I think that would have gone well for him, but he tore his Achilles, right? You see Shanahan and McDaniel. they split apart. And, some people would say, oh, McDaniel's nothing without Shanahan. Or, oh, man, maybe McDaniel was the real genius behind Shanahan all this time anyway, right? But they split apart. Both of them are cooking right now. So if you look around the league, I mean, that tree's going crazy. And I think I'd probably put, it's Belichick, of course. And 3, dude. Belichick's thing's not going good or he was nearly 0-3. He was 1-2. They barely beat the Jets. Belichick and Reed, right? And then the next 4 or 5 guys are all the Shanahan McVay group.
They're doing a terrific job, that group. And you look at the thumpings they're putting on teams. I mean, that was kind of disrespectful, the way they beat the Denver Broncos. And you beat a team that bad, and I tweeted this out. I remember a coach, we had a bad loss when I was in college. And the coach said, heads got to roll. And I'm like, man, what does that mean? Like, people have to lose their jobs. Like, when you lose that bad, people got to lose their jobs. And you get thumped and you give up 70 points in an NFL game. I always talk about how the talent isn't as drastic of a difference as people think, right? Like the fans think like the starters are all these great guys and the backups are all these scrubs. And it's like, no, it's actually like a very small difference between a starter and a backup most of the time. And really, there's only a few freaks on the roster, right? So when you get thumped like that, where it's clear you don't belong on the same field at all with this team, whether you're the Chicago Bears, they got thumped as well by Kansas City. And we kind of see that coming because of, Justin Fields led offense and all those guys. It's just not working. All right. But the Broncos, like, you have Russell Wilson. Like, he's a veteran quarterback. You should not get thumped like that at home. Heads got to roll.
And you had what,
and that's at the hands of McDaniel, though. Like, McDaniel is the one that's causing that. Whatever he's doing to put a certain level of stress on the opposing defenses, I mean, it's a lot. And I'm starting to see some of his. I've seen that little tight end, and then I saw the 49ers start doing it. I first saw it with Miami, though. So some people are kind of stealing some of the tricks that McDaniel is pulling out.
That little short, fast motion, then McDaniel's doing a ton of it. And by the way, the only team that uses pre-snap motion more than the 49ers is McDaniel's Dolphins. But that fast motion that's actually motioning away from the team, away from the center instead of across the field, right? Which is where, motions you usually think of going that way. They're kind of going away from the ball. That's really interesting to see a lot more teams doing that. But
you want me to elaborate on that?
Yes. I want you to tell me how McDaniel's putting up 70 points. Not only is he putting up 70 points, he got Tyreek Hill. Tua's doing a good job. But Raheem Mostert started that game. River Craycraft started that game for Waddle, and they put up 70.
Mostert went crazy. I mean, he's just too fast. They had Devin A-Chain, running back. Like, he's too fast. Tyreek Hill, he had 150 yards right away. Like, he's too fast. There's too much speed. And then when you start to throw in that motion, and I've seen the 49ers start to do it with George Kittle. I see the Miami Dolphins do it with Tyreek Hill sometimes at that spot. It throws everything off. Every movement that you see from the offense, there's a change in how you have to approach it from a defensive standpoint. All right. So when I'm on defense, all right, and I see a guy motion away or motion to me, it changes my responsibility. And when you're doing it fast, especially if you're not anticipating it happening, it changes what you have to do, and it could throw you off. And I think that's why you're seeing that, and guys are just wide open. I'm seeing it in college football. I'm seeing it all over. This last week, I don't know how many times I've seen it, a ton. But guys are like open off of it, and I'm so confused by it. But I think the defense is confused by it too, because it throws off people's responsibilities.
It's pretty amazing. I love seeing it. Rooting for McDaniel, rooting for Mostert. Love that dude. So it's kind of cool to see them doing well over there. And who knows, we might see these two teams playing in February. Because if I had to put money on which teams are going to make the Super Bowl right now for the NFC and the AFC, it'd be the 49ers. It'd be the Miami Dolphins. And you know who it would not be, Croc? The Dallas Cowboys, who lost to the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. Are you kidding me? That was one I did not see coming. Maybe this was maybe the Cowboys were looking 2 weeks ahead, worried about the 49ers. They dropped one to the Cardinals 28-16 in Arizona. That one shocked me a little bit, Croc.
It definitely shocked me. We didn't see that happening. I think a lot of it is you kind of look at the quarterback position and Dobbs. And, Dobbs has been a solid backup, but not like a starting level quarterback in the NFL. And to see him just really handle business right away, ripped up a 44-yard run against the Dallas Cowboys. You see he was able to move the ball. They had explosive plays. They got the rookie receiver Wilson out of Stanford. He's making play. He caught a big ball on the crosser and had a nice catch and run towards the end, where every time the Cowboys tried to answer and kind of respond to something, the Cardinals somehow just hit them in the mouth and just said, hold on, we're going to hold you off a little bit. We're going to keep you at arm's distance. So shout out to the Cardinals. I think a lot of 49er fans, I know one in particular who talked to me, said, oh, yeah, I'm not even worried about the Cardinals. Focus on the Dallas Cowboys week 5. And I think now it's like, this is why. And fans get on me about this because I never come off as if the 49ers are just this team that's going to just blow everybody out. No matter who they play. It's like, they're playing the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Just rest your starters. And I have way more respect for teams. And I think now when you see how the Dallas Cowboys went into Arizona, I don't know how much or little respect they have for Arizona, but clearly everyone walked away thinking, I don't know if they're good or bad, but I know it is a team that when the 49ers play them next Sunday, you have to take them very seriously.
Yep. Cowboys lost a big piece of their defense. Trevon Diggs, too, with the ACL this week. And the Cardinals twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row, have put up big points in the first half, have come out hot. Joshua Dobbs is looking a lot better for the Cardinals than I expected him to look. So the 49ers are going to be prepared, and this is probably the best thing that could happen for the 49ers. They're not going to be sneaking up, and I don't think they were going to be snuck up on anyway, but you get a couple weeks now to prepare and look at some tape. So it's not like they're going to do something that you weren't prepared to see after a couple weeks. I think that helps for the 49ers, and they're not going to sneak up on you because you've seen them go up and take a lead on playoff teams from last year, 2 weeks in a row now with the Cardinals. So clearly the Cardinals aren't as bad as we maybe thought they were going to be coming into the year. And it's the same story for the Rams. We'll see what happens with them in prime time. That game has not happened yet this week. The worst team in the NFL, though, is probably the Chicago Bears, Croc. Like, that is a disaster. It turns out there's a lot of people are like, who cares? They were playing bad on defense. Who cares that the defensive coordinator resigned this week because of whatever's going on with him? And it's like, no, that's still not good for your football team. I mean, they got completely thumped. Like, they can't do anything right. The Bears look completely lost everywhere right now. And obviously they played the Chiefs. So that was a 41-10 final. And the next worst team might be the Carolina Panthers. And guess what? The Bears have the Panthers pick. So I thought it was going to be the Cardinals and maybe the Texans pick, which the Cardinals own. That ended up being the first 2 picks in the draft. And who knows, they could still be 3 and 4. They could be 1-2. But the Cardinals and Bears might end up owning most of the top 5 picks in this NFL draft this year. But man, it might be the Bears in 1-2 with that Panthers pick too, from trading back with the Panthers. Panthers lost 37-27 with the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton at quarterback instead of Bryce Young this week.
Yeah, fun watching the NFC West and just kind of looking at how they play. I watched a ton of that Seahawks game as well. You see their usage of Kenneth Walker. They actually threw a go ball to him. Like, they lined him up on the outside. He was one out there wide and just ran a straight go route. And I don't know what Dante Robinson, the cornerback from the Panthers, I don't know what he was looking at, but maybe he just said, he's out here as a decoy. And a lot of times you see the running backs run that little kind of stop route, and you do some things off of that with number 2. But he ran a go, and they threw it to him down the sideline. He caught passes. Out the backfield. I thought he ran well, and then all of a sudden they give you a dose of Zach Charbonnet, who he didn't have a bunch of touches in the first half. Second half, he starts to get going. He's running the ball well. He's running strong. He runs over a guy on the sideline and looks at him like going into the end zone. I mean, it was a shellacking of the Seahawks, and I think the score makes it look closer than what it felt like when you were watching it. It felt like the Seahawks were always in control of that game. But, again, it's a Pete Carroll-led team. They will be competitive, and I think they were competitive today. They've been competitive throughout the games. Even, they had an ugly loss against the Rams, but the Cardinals, and I can't wait to see the Rams come up on Monday, but the Cardinals, that's an interesting one. I think they still are not good, but at the very least, they showed you that even though we're not where we want to be, we will fight. And that reminds me a lot of like the 2017 49ers, where, they started 0-9 and at one point lost 5 straight games by less than 3 or by 3 or less points, right? It's like, man, you're losing. You look at the record, like they're not winning. They're going to have a high draft pick, but they also are like, they will fight. Like, you have to really kind of work to beat them. And that feels like that might be the Cardinals.
Yeah, and as was pointed out in the chat, Cliff Kingsbury might have been just a really terrible coach too. So you just get legit NFL coaches in there, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, even with not a great roster, they start playing a lot better. So that could be a big part of it with the Cardinals. Yeah. So right now, still with the 49ers, a commanding lead in the NFC West, 3-0. Seahawks at 2-1. The 1-1 Rams play on Monday night, and then the Arizona Cardinals now at 1-2. And there are three other 0-3 teams in the NFC: the Bears, the Vikings, and the Panthers, all 0-3 right now. And the 49ers, the only 3-0 team. The Philadelphia Eagles could get to 3-0 here on Monday Night Football as well. Good stuff. Thanks everybody for jumping in on the live chat, and appreciate all the everydayers out there, no matter when it is that you watch or listen Locked On 49ers. Make sure you are subscribed up, hit the like and the notification on YouTube. And of course, you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts. Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.